Hey, right now on WeatherNation, we continue to follow some of the destructive pictures and new images that we're getting in from the Lake Charles area in Louisiana after major Hurricane Laura made landfall late last night at about 1 in the morning Central Time, the core of the storm moving onshore. And the information's just coming in, but in this view, you can see above the road numerous power lines down, and the local officials, especially National Weather Service office, encouraging you to stay inside, not to go out and assess the damage just yet because the down lines are dangerous, the debris, and so forth. But those are just some of the early images of what we have seen here from Lake Charles. Hey, we are now joined by Chad Carter. He's a spokesperson for the American Red Cross. Thank you so much, Chad, for not only your time right now, but everything you and your agency does. First off, folks seeing these images for the first time with us right on the screen. So kind of talk about the response and the timeline from the Red Cross in a situation like this.
Sure. Seeing those images is heartbreaking for all of us who work in humanitarian services because we want to be there to provide support. And right now, that's exactly what the American Red Cross is doing. Overnight, as Hurricane Laura made landfall, about 10,000 people were provided safe lodging through our partner agencies there in the area, either through shelters or through hotels. And as this storm continues right now, American Red Cross volunteers on the ground are providing that hope, that help, that comfort for people that have been impacted by this storm. It's been a very tough 24 hours for folks in the Gulf Coast. And so the American Red Cross is there. We have been preparing for this, and we had folks staged throughout the communities there in the Gulf Coast leading up to this storm, and we have resources available right now as well. So it's been a tough time for folks there, but the American Red Cross has volunteers on the ground ready to support and assist in any way that we can.
And I think when the viewer sees at home, sees some of these images that we are following and showing to you, they have that human nature to want to help, and it's natural. So what do you advise in terms of how they help?
Right now, we really encourage people to give a generous financial donation, and they can do so through redcross.org, 1-800-RED-CROSS, or they can text $10 to Red Cross at 90999. By doing so, they allow us to put that money into use immediately, right in the areas where we need it most. During this difficult time because of COVID-19, we want them to understand that it is safe and comfortable to come to a Red Cross shelter, and by making a donation, you're allowing us to provide the food, sheltering, immediate basic needs, and a whole lot more to those who have been impacted by Hurricane Laura.
Yeah, and we know that text number so often because we've had so many of these natural disasters in the past several years. And speaking of this year, your organization is not only responding to these tropical cyclones, but also these wildfires, some of the state's largest out in California.
It's been a very busy and active August for not only the country, but the American Red Cross. But we've been planning for months for disaster season. We knew, and as you have been talking about for several months as well, this was going to be an active hurricane season and an active wildfire season. So the American Red Cross has been working with partner agencies all across the country, working to develop plans for when this type of situation occurred. We have volunteers who are on the ground supporting, but we also have volunteers because of COVID-19 who are working virtually and supporting remotely. And it has been a very strong opportunity for our volunteers to get involved. For those who might not be able to go to a disaster, they can support our agency and support those who have been impacted remotely. And it's been a busy August, but we're prepared. We do this well, and we will continue to be there to provide hope and comfort for those, even as Laura continues her path for the next couple of days.
Well, we, of course, as always, thank you so much for your time and all your efforts and your organization, too. It's Chad Carter, spokesperson for the American Red Cross. Thank you, Chad. Be well. Right now, I want to get to the Viper radar, though, because Chelsea is tracking some severe weather in the Northeast.
That's right. We do have an enhanced risk issued by the Storm Prediction Center for active weather today into some big cities. Now, as we pause the radar, we do have an ongoing tornado warning right along the I-88 corridor, and that remains in effect for about another 20 minutes. I'm going to turn on the local radar site so we can get a little bit more detailed information. This does include areas like Morris, Lawrence. This is right on top of you now. You should already be in your safe place. This is headed towards Davenport, Meredith. You are included in this tornado warning. And areas like Wanata, you are also included. When we turn on the velocity, we can get a little bit of an understanding on what the winds are doing in the upper levels of the atmosphere. We are seeing a little bit of rotation. It's more broad cloud than it was just a few minutes ago. If I go back and scans, you can see right where the tornado warning was issued and why it was issued for, that tight rotation that's taking place. I also see a little bit of rotation here at a previous scan. Now, as we go forward to local times, you can see that this particular one still has a little bit of rotation. That is just to the north of the actual warning, but here's where we're also seeing some broader rotation taking place. So you can't let your guard down in any of these storms out there just because there is that potential for some rotation. Speaking of that, the National Weather Service offices out of Binghamton did issue a tornado watch. I'm going to turn on those watches for you, and you can see it does include almost all of the areas that have those storms moving through now over towards Kingston into areas outside of Carbondale. This tornado watch remains in effect even into far western parts of Connecticut until 6 p.m. tonight Central Time, so 7 o'clock Eastern Time, as more of these storms are likely to continue. When we say that there's that enhanced risk, you can see anywhere that's colored in the orange, the yellow, or the green have that potential for severe weather today. So Ithaca over to Scranton, New York City, Boston, all big cities included in that risk for active weather today. And this is outside of the hurricane, the tropical storm that's moving on shore. This is just a very strong setup that we have in place for today into these areas. And again, going back over to the radar, we are seeing these individual cells producing those quick spin-ups. On top of that, going over to Cortland, New York, we also have a severe thunderstorm warning that remains in effect also for about another 20 minutes for damaging downdraft winds right along that I-81 corridor. We'll be back with more on this severe weather threat as well as Tropical Storm Laura as we continue to track the tropics.